Milwaukee wins Game 5. Final score 123-119. Milwaukee now up in the series 3-2, and they're going back home with a chance to win the NBA Finals. They were down 2-0. Everybody was writing them off. We weren't even really sure if Giannis was even going to play in this series based on his knee injury that he had just a little over a week ago. Now they're one win away from an NBA championship. This game was crazy. So Milwaukee fell behind by 16 points in the first quarter. Part of me thought it was going to be over by that point because Milwaukee, we know how Middleton and Holiday typically play on the road. They're generally a very up and down team as it is, but they came back and they went up by, I believe, as much as 14 in this game. So it looked like they were just going to close it out, and Phoenix, their body language didn't really look like they had a comeback in them, but sure enough, they did. They made it a one-point game, and then you all saw the last play. Devin Booker had the ball with a chance to take the lead in the last minute, but then Holiday steals it, gets the dunk to Giannis, and then that pretty much sealed it right there. So what happened in this, I'm going to kind of break down my 3 points about this game and at least my initial thoughts of it, and just my takeaways for this series. So to me, the biggest thing in this series is that the level of playoff experience is really showing at this point, and I think that's really going to kind of dictate who wins this final. So Phoenix has the experience of Chris Paul in terms of playoff caliber play. He's been in the league for quite a while, but the rest of the roster really does not have very much playoff experience at all. Other than Jay Crowder, he's got a little bit of his time in Boston and then Miami last year, but the rest of the roster, pretty much, this is their first time in this kind of situation. But Milwaukee, I mean, they've never been to the finals either, but they've been under heavy scrutiny for the last 3 years, especially with how their last 2 seasons finished, and a lot of questions about this team. Can they win without Giannis dominating? If you build a wall around him, does Giannis even have the players in Milwaukee to be a franchise player and to lead this team to finals? And then a lot of people even saying if Giannis is even a Michael Jordan type player, if he's more of the sidekick that doesn't is overrated. So these guys have been through all kinds of scrutiny from the media, and they know how to respond to adversity. So and this game showed, especially when they fell behind early, they just kept grinding. Drew Holiday kept making plays, playing excellent defense. That was some of the best all-around game that I think I've ever watched somebody play for a point guard position. What Drew Holiday was doing both on the defensive end and on the offensive end with how aggressive he was being. And you kind of even saw on that last play. So Phoenix, Devin Booker drove in at the end. Kind of like I think he was trying to initially do a pump fake and seeing if he could draw a foul. But he ended up getting double teamed, and then Holiday came over to triple team, and that's when Devin Booker didn't see him. He got the ball stripped. Could have been a jump ball. I'm not entirely sure why they didn't call it a jump. But anyway, it turned out as a steal. And that kind of, Devin Booker's been around for a few years, but that shows the level of inexperience too, is that, move the ball around a little more. You had some time to set up a play. You didn't have to just drive straight to the elbow, try to get a shot right away. So I think that's really kind of been the big difference here is Phoenix, how are they going to respond to adversity? And I think individually they've been able to do that. Devin Booker had a bad game 3, but he came back in the last 2 games and had great games 4 and 5. Chris Paul played better today, although he was still kind of not really himself compared to how he played in the last game. But they're just collectively not. They're just not responding to the way that Milwaukee's playing, and I think that really has to do a lot with the level of experience. The other thing I think that's a big takeaway, this is my number 2 point, is that Milwaukee's size is just giving them a ton of problems. So Phoenix likes to kind of play a small ball offense where they have multiple guards, sometimes 2-point guards, multiple wings, and then DeAndre Ayton as their center. And it's worked pretty well for them throughout the playoffs, but Milwaukee, they have just excellent perimeter defenders in PJ Tucker, Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday. Giannis is an excellent post defender. And then they have some interesting lineup changes that they can do as well that affect their rotations when they either play Brook Lopez or they put Pat Connaughton in, who's played exceptionally well. I think Connaughton's really made a big difference for them off the bench. But Phoenix is just having a difficult time reacting to all that size and all the different looks that they can throw at them. And I didn't even mention Bobby Portis, who's also done an excellent job on the glass. And that's really kind of shown in this series that the rebounding difference has really made a big difference for Milwaukee, and I think it's wearing out the Suns. A lot of these plays are second chance opportunities that they're getting, and Phoenix really doesn't have a whole lot of. It's a shame that Dario Saric got hurt because I know that he's not really a big physical player necessarily, but I think it would have really helped them out to run some lineups where they have Saric and Ayton at the same time because Saric can shoot. Maybe that can give them some more size to match up with the Bucks, but that's really been hurting them in the series. And I think that, especially as it's kind of grinding into the late, later into the series, it's really kind of hurting them down the stretch. And then my third point is Drew Holiday is just ridiculously underrated. I know that he's very up and down offensively, and a lot of people are he's gotten his fair share of criticism because of that, about not being an effective offensive player, not being somebody that can be relied upon to win a championship. But he really in this game showed his value to the Milwaukee Bucks because his defense was excellent. I know that the play that's going to be talked about the most is the steal at Booker at the end, but he had one play, I believe, in the third quarter where he was guarding Booker at half court. Booker was trying to shake off him, but Holiday just kept getting right up on him, and then he stripped the ball, turned it around, and then just stepped right back into a three. And it's just when Drew Holiday is on, he is just when he's on offensively, he's so underrated and so valuable to this team because he's always bringing it on defense, and you always can count on him for that. But when he's playing as well as he did tonight, it's very difficult for anybody to beat Milwaukee, in my opinion. And I just think it's interesting because apparently Milwaukee was looking at both Drew Holiday and Chris Paul as point guards when they were trying to upgrade their offense last year from Drew Bledsoe. They decided to go with Holiday, and I think a lot of people a week ago would have criticized that and said, "Oh, well, if you had a chance to get Chris Paul, you do that." But I think he's really showing that they made the right choice in getting Drew Holiday, especially the way these last two games have gone. And then my last point I want to make is with regard to Phoenix. So I think what I've kind of noticed is that they've seemed to gone too much into isolation, I think, in terms of either Chris Paul ISO or Devin Booker ISO, and that's kind of been the basis of their offense. I think I think that that's not really working as effectively as it ideally should be for them. I think they're better when they can get ball movement and get some guys into the corner to shoot threes. Bridges was pretty effective shooting. Johnson, he's really kind of a negative on defense, but he can get some open shots too. I just think Phoenix is not really getting the ball movement enough to really as much as they were in the beginning of the series. I know a lot of that is because Milwaukee's putting a lot of pressure on their lead guards, on defense in order to have them make these outlet passes, but to move the ball around. But they're really going to have to find ways to do that, because if they try to just play isolation, they're not going to beat Milwaukee that way, because Milwaukee's way more physical. If the rebound misses, Phoenix almost never got offensive rebounds. So you really have to, if they're not making their shots, then you're going to have to find ways to move the ball around and find people to get open. You can't just solely rely on isolation. And I think that really hurt them down the stretch. They were able to come back because of some great shots by Chris Paul and Devin Booker, but you're going to have to move the ball more in Games 6 and 7 if you're going to want to try to come back in the series and even make it to 7 games at this point. So I had Phoenix winning the series. I don't know if they're going to be able to win in Game 6 now. I think Milwaukee is playing incredibly well. They've got all the momentum and they're going home. But we'll see how it goes from here. But yeah, that's all I got for this. Check out my channel if you want to check out some other content as well. I've been posting a lot of fantasy football, among other stuff. So if you're interested, please check it out. All right, I'll see you guys later. Bye.